Picture this for a second. Waking up to crisp, thin mountain air, stepping outside, and seeing the morning sun cast a perfect pink glow across a massive, mirror-like lake. You are in a place where the towering cliffs behind you hold the secrets of ancient empires, and the water right in front of you reflects 1,000 years of living culture. You know, it's often been called a city where time seems to breathe gently. Welcome to our latest explainer, where we are heading straight into the heart of Yunnan, China.
Hey everyone, welcome. I am so incredibly excited to guide you through this explainer today as we peel back the truly fascinating layers of Dali. This isn't just some scenic tourist spot. It's a legendary crossroads of the ancient Tea-Horse Road. It's a former imperial capital, and it is the living heartland of the Bai ethnic group. We're going to unpack the deep history, the breathtaking natural geography, and the vibrant culture that makes this place completely unforgettable.
All right, so here is our roadmap for the journey today. 1. The canvas, mountains and lake. 2. The ancient kingdoms of Dali. 3. Bai architecture and towns. 4. The art of tie-dye. And finally, number 5, a taste of Dali. Let's just jump right in.
Section 1. The canvas, mountains and lake. The natural borders of a kingdom.
Before there were ever kings or cities here, there was just this landscape. And honestly, it's so perfectly laid out, it almost feels intentional. This unique geography perfectly frames the city, acting as a natural fortress while creating that famously slow-paced, relaxed lifestyle Dali is known for. On one side, you have the Cangshan Mountains. We are talking about a massive, dramatic wall of rock featuring 19 major peaks that reach over 4,000 meters into the sky, just completely carved up by deep valleys and waterfalls. And then, right opposite that, sitting at an elevation of about 2,000 meters, is Erhai Lake. Now, the name actually translates to ear sea because of its distinct ear-like shape, but it's really this vast, super serene freshwater lake. The entire city of Dali is just nestled perfectly right in that sweet spot in between.
And the sheer scale of how people actually interact with this water today is just incredible. I mean, imagine renting a bike and cruising down a pristine 129-kilometer ecological corridor that wraps all the way around the lake. If you time your trip right, say between October and March, you'll actually be cycling right alongside thousands of seagulls. And get this, they migrate all the way from Siberia just to spend the winter in Dali. It's the kind of place where you can watch the sunrise over these quiet little fishing villages like Kaikun and just feel completely immersed in nature. Moving on to Section 2, the ancient kingdoms of Dali, a crossroads of empires.
So for over 500 years, this very landscape was the absolute political and spiritual center of the Southwest. It evolved into a major hub connecting China, Southeast Asia, and the Tibetan world. Back in the 8th century, you had the Nanzhao Kingdom thriving here. Then, from the 10th through the 13th centuries, it became the Dali Kingdom. But here is where it gets really wild. This was a kingdom where an astonishing number of powerful reigning kings voluntarily abdicated their thrones. They literally gave up absolute power just to live out the rest of their days as Buddhist monks. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about the incredible spiritual gravity of this region, right?
And nothing represents that spiritual legacy quite like the 3 pagodas of Chongsheng Temple. The main one in the center, the Chongsheng Pagoda, shoots up nearly 70 meters high and was built over 1,200 years ago during the Tang Dynasty, with the 2 smaller octagonal ones added a bit later. Now really think about this for a second. These are brick structures. They have survived a millennium of massive earthquakes, brutal wars, the rise and fall of entire empires. And yet, they are still standing perfectly intact, right there against the dramatic backdrop of the Cangshan Mountains.
Now, if we wander right into the heart of Dali Ancient City, we hit the Wuha building. Historically, this was the political epicenter. Today, it stands as this towering monumental gateway. If you actually climb up to the upper levels, you get this absolutely incredible elevated view of dense, gray-tiled rooftops just stretching out forever toward the mountains. It completely anchors the layout of the ancient city. It's this constant, powerful reminder of Dali's past glory as an imperial capital.
All right, Section 3. Bai architecture and towns, the living culture.
Let's pivot from that monumental history to the everyday living culture, specifically looking at the Bai ethnic group, who have called this region home for centuries. A traditional Bai house has a super specific layout known as 3 sides, 1 screen wall.
Basically, that means you have a U-shaped courtyard with 3 living wings, and on the 4th side, there's this beautifully decorated reflective screen wall designed specifically to catch the sunlight. You can see a perfectly preserved example of this in the nearby town of Xizhou at the Yan family courtyard. It was this massive estate owned by wealthy tea merchants who traveled the dangerous ancient tea horse road. With its stark white walls, elegant gray roofs, and incredibly intricate wood carvings, it is literally a masterclass in regional design. But here's the thing, this culture isn't just trapped behind glass in a museum somewhere, it is fiercely alive. Picture yourself walking through the Sanyuje or March Street Market. Historically, this was a massive annual trading fair deeply rooted in bicultural traditions. Today, though, it's this vibrant, bustling weekly daytime market. It's loud, it's crowded, and it's this beautifully tactile space where modern tourism completely overlaps with ancient local trading habits. You've got everything from fresh mountain produce and local street snacks to hand-woven crafts, all just laid out right there on colorful blankets.
Section 4. The Art of Tie-Dye, Centuries of Craftsmanship.
Zooming in on the micro details of Dali, we absolutely have to talk about one of its most famous artisanal traditions, the stunning indigo blue tie-dye crafted by the Bai people. And let me tell you, this process requires so much patience. Step 1 is incredibly meticulous. Artisans and even visitors taking workshops will spend hours tightly hand-stitching and tying white fabric to create these intricate patterns, like butterflies or flowers. Step 2, that happens in a flash. The fabric is submerged into a vat of natural indigo dye for literally just 6 to 8 seconds. Then comes Step 3, the big reveal. Once you carefully untie all those tight stitches, the tied areas resist the dye, leaving behind these crisp, stunning white patterns. So the more complex the white pattern, the more expensive the piece is going to be, simply because it all comes down to the grueling labor of that initial tying.
And finally, Section 5, a taste of Dali. Culinary traditions of Yunnan. To really grasp how this region's wild environment, from the high mountains to the deep lakes, translates directly to what's on your plate, we have to settle the great Yunnan noodle debate. If you're traveling here, you absolutely have to know the difference between the region's 2 staple breakfasts. On one hand, you have mixian. These are these soft, slippery, round rice noodles famous all across Yunnan. But Dali has its own very special local variation called ersi. Ersi is essentially a rice cake cut into noodle form. It is distinctly chewy, gooey, almost kind of mochi-like in its texture, and it is just out of this world good when served in a warm, savory broth topped with fresh cilantro and pickled veggies.
Now, here is a fact that surprises almost everyone. Dali is one of the very rare places in traditional China with a deep, centuries-old cheese-making tradition. They make this cheese called rushan, and the artisanal process is absolutely fascinating. First, they mix fresh cow's milk with naturally fermented sour milk to curdle it, so no artificial rennet used at all. Next, they heat and roll these curds into a smooth, stretchy ball that honestly looks exactly like fresh mozzarella. Then they stretch it super thin around 2 bamboo sticks and just let it dry for a couple of days until it gets this leathery, crispy texture. Locals will often serve it roasted over hot coals with a generous smear of sweet local rose petal jam.
And honestly, the culinary hits just keep coming. You have the crunch of a freshly baked Xizhou baba, which is this incredibly flaky, crispy pastry that can be stuffed with savory meat and egg or sweet rose sugar. Then there's pawaluda, a rich, icy coconut milk dessert totally loaded with sago, fresh fruit, and chunks of crispy bread that slowly soften up as they soak in the milk. Oh, and because of the surrounding mountain climate, you absolutely cannot leave without trying a wild mushroom hot pot. It's this deeply savory, umami-packed broth that simmers up to 6 different types of freshly foraged local mountain mushrooms. The flavors here, they are just as diverse and unforgettable as the ancient streets themselves.
So we've traced the massive peaks of the Cangshan Mountains. We've walked the very paths of kings who actually chose the monastery over the throne. We've marveled at the intense artistry of Bai tie-dye and tasted the totally unique flavors of Yunnan. From ancient royalty seeking spiritual peace to modern travelers looking for a much slower pace of life, Dali has captured hearts for well over a millennium. It's a place that practically begs you to just pause, look around, and breathe a little gentler. Time might move slowly here, but the legacy is profound. So the only question left is, what story will you write in it? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep exploring.